All right, Art House 808 family. I have these cards from the June artist gathering. This is from the other night.
Yep.
And real simple. We just passed them out, had a ton of people here. And we asked people, what do you make and what do you need help with? And so Alice hasn't seen any of these. So I'm going to ask your advice and then I'll chime in a little if I have something to say.
Okay.
Are you ready? All right.
I think.
First one is from Peyton.
Okay.
Peyton says, how do I get better at artistic creative things? How do I get better?
Okay. So I'm just going to go for the most obvious answer to me, but I want to expound on it just a tad bit and saying, how do I want to get better at artistic expression or anything like that? Peyton, my advice is to do more, to do more things that are artistic. And that is subjective because what some people say is art is not what other people say is art. But we're not going to get into that yet. What I do want to say is just to do things. Like if you're a painter, you want to paint more. If you are a photographer, you want to take more pictures. The caveat to that, where I would really like to go into is and offer a little bit of encouragement to you is that if you are a painter, how to get better at something is to actually do more artistic things that make you a more rounded artist. So, for example, if you're a photographer, try painting. If you're a dancer, try photography. If you're an actor or a filmmaker, try other disciplines. It's only going to help you be better at what you are already pursuing or wanting to do. Now, if you don't know the type of art that you would like to pursue and you're just getting into like creative expression, then that is the same advice that I would give you is to try a bunch of things. What is so interesting is like, what if you come up with something that is a cross-pollination of those things? For example, you take photography and then you print that out and you paint it. Sometimes we look at art in this like general forms, but you might come up with something completely different just by doing what you love doing. So to be better at it, you just have to do it. And I know that's really simple, but that really is the answer.
It's the cross-pollination thing. One of the greatest artists who ever lived is Da Vinci.
Hmm.
And Da Vinci is what's called a generalist. There's other terms for that, a Renaissance man.
Hmm.
And it just means he did everything. He studied human anatomy. That helped him paint people better. He studied invention and machinery, and he made flying apparatuses so he
Yeah.
could understand how birds worked. And he
Wow.
understood how birds worked. And that helped him make inventions about flying. And he painted and he wrote and he kept these insane journals. And so there's this cross pollination. If you're going to be a great photographer and you only take photos and look at photography, you won't ever really get out of the boundaries. And art is
Mm,
all about breaking boundaries.
yeah.
Art is all about what can I bring from here to make something new. And I think cross pollination is an interesting thing. I don't know much about plants, but I think of like plants meaning how do you get a new plant? It's when two things come together. How do you
Hmm.
get a new breed of a dog? It's when you
Hmm.
have two things that collide. The DNA of these two things meet. And I think that's art. It's how do you get a new sounding music? Well, it's from combining two things in music that have never been combined.
I think the only other piece that I want to hit on very briefly is the way that you structured the question. You probably didn't mean anything by it, Peyton, but I do want to speak into this really quickly. How do I get better at artistic abilities or skills? The only thing that I want to speak into is the word better. A lot of times that word better can lend itself to meaning that you're comparing yourself to anyone. And I just don't
It's
want you
really
to
good.
think that getting better at something means that there is this ultimate like goal to be achieved or, a certificate or something like that. Maybe we restructure the question and we say, how do I become more skilled? Maybe?
Yeah, like I love it. I love that you caught that. I didn't catch that. It's there are no winners in art.
No.
Like you in sports, you have a better football player.
Hmm.
In art, you don't have a better
Yeah.
because it's so beauty is subjective.
Yes.
I have seen little children's artworks that move me, and then I look at older professional stuff, and I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
So there isn't a better. So I think it's the skill.
Yeah, I
That's a good
think,
point.
yeah, there's not a better because if you were to say, how do I get better at something? That's insinuating that what you're doing is not good enough
Or valuable.
or valuable. And here's the deal, whether you are sitting down with crayons or whether you are
Hey,
painting with oils or whether you are, I don't know, using a disposable camera versus a Leica, like there's not a better, it's you are already doing good enough with what you have because you're actually doing it. And that is what we need to like land in and really speak into is how do you get more skilled at something? Sure, take classes. Surround yourself with people who know more than you in that area or something like that. But to get better at something, let's use the word more skilled because you are already, if you are doing something artistic, creative, you're pushing the boundaries, you are doing enough. You are, yeah, you're doing it.
and you're
And
doing more
you're doing
than
more,
almost everyone on earth.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing more than most people who sit around and call themselves artists. So,
Yeah. That leads into this next question.
okay,
This is from Jillia,
okay,
and it kind of ties into this.
okay.
How do I finish my artwork? I
Said
have a
every
I
artist
have a
ever.
everyone, yeah, you go first.
Okay,
I
okay.
love it.
First of all, Julia, welcome to the club, girl. I'm your president. This is your vice president. Just kidding. How do I finish my
Yeah.
artwork? Okay, so I actually have a really good piece of advice for this. I think that I really struggle with this as well from a deep personal level. So I'm just going to give you the advice that I would give myself and things that I do myself in order to finish something. First of all, I will never think that anything is ever done. And so I can almost like just belabor a project because I won't ever think that it's finished. So I personally, my personality type needs things that are going to get me to that finish line, such as a deadline, mark it on a calendar. But even then, if you're a little bit like my personality, I will look at that deadline and be like, see you later. So a lot of times I'll have to bring in somebody to hold me accountable to that deadline. For example, a mentor, a peer, a partner. And I will say, hey, let's meet up and discuss this new project I'm working on. Hey, can you come read what I have done? Hey, I want to have this project finished and let's meet for coffee. And I want to send you this project on this date. So having that accountability will usually push me towards a completion. However, if it doesn't push me towards a completion, it will at least push me towards a spot where I will be able to ask the questions as to why I haven't been able to finish. Or I'll put it in front of someone who will ask those questions for me. I have taken works to a friend or a writing partner and said, hey, I can't finish this. I don't know where to go. And that partner will look at me and say, well, have you thought of this? Or what about this angle? Or what's happening in your life that might be causing you? Or do you even like this piece anymore? And I think that just having somebody else ask me questions can do one of two things. It can let me know that either I am finished with it, or maybe it is heading towards a finished spot, or it'll give me ideas and encourage me to finish the project. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think community
Yeah.
and collaboration are some of the keyest things to finishing
Hmm.
work sometimes. I also think that art is finished when you say it's finished, and that perfectionism is the enemy of most young artists. There's a quote, I'll butcher it, but it's basically the young artist treats everything too sacred, but the older artist just moves on. And so there's this
Ooh.
thing about as we mature as people that make paintings or photography works
Hmm.
of art or musicals, plays, whatever, everything's so sacred in the beginning because it feels like your whole
Hmm.
reputation and your being is your worth is in it, but you're not what you make.
Right.
What you make is not you. And so you got to learn to be less sacred. Some of the more older artists that I meet and have learned from lately, they just move on. There's a term in electrical engineering or product manufacturing, which is something I do, called feature creep. And it's basically you go to
Mm.
make, let's say you go to make a cell phone, you get hung up on what it could have and you never put it out. That's feature creep. And so artists have feature creep. We need to just paint it and move on because we just make it so sacred though that we
Just
hang
do
up on
it.
it.
Yeah.
And in the time that we could have showed the world 5 pieces of ourself, we're struggling to hand over one because it's not perfect when there
Mm.
is no perfect.
I think my brain is like swirling. I've kind of like drifted off 5 times while you're talking because I just keep thinking about so many projects that I didn't finish. or that I would stress out about because I never thought that that opportunity was going to come along again. And I think
Mhm.
that lends itself to the sacredness thing that you were talking about,
Yeah.
where sometimes we don't ever finish anything because we want it to be perfect. And we want it to be perfect because we never think that that opportunity is going to pass us by again. And that's just not true. It's just not
Yeah.
true. I mean, it's hard
It's a
to,
lie. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to like really think to really like grasp that in your mind. But honestly, it's just not true. You're going to get other opportunities. You're going to get other things. And I think that the whole wrap up of that is walk away when you think you should walk away.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
And
I just want
and
you,
if
you choose when it's done.
I don't know, I mean, I think that sometimes if there's not like I always call it life on something, like, "Oh, does this have life on it right now?" Meaning our ideas constantly coming and churning out, almost like those wheels in a riverboat, that just are like pouring
Yeah.
the water over or whatever. Like, I always kinda think about that imagery when I think about, is there life on something? And
That's good.
if I can't find life on something, maybe I should just be walking away.
Yeah, I would say too, it's okay to not finish something, meaning like not everything needs to be seen, but you need to just determine that more quickly, be less sacred. The thing to what you said, there's a writer I love, Seth Godin. He talks about how that's selfish to hold on to
Mhm.
something. It's like you're being selfish with your art and you should
Wow.
give more quickly. You
Wow.
should show it and having a discipline of like, it's not sacred. Don't be so selfish with it. Just move on. Like that's a good practice. But at the same time, devil's
Yeah.
advocate to this, sometimes don't finish. Throw in the garbage, move on.
Well,
Because it's not sacred. In both situations,
sure, both
it's not
situations.
sacred.
I think that as an artist, how do I finish things? Going straight back to her original question, is sometimes as artists, we can get really trapped and almost engrossed in the details of something. This is why it's so important to have someone who gives you feedback, whether that be a mentor, a leader, family members, another person, another artist in that discipline,
A critic, even.
even a critic. It is so important to show your stuff to people because we can get so wrapped up in the details that we will never see a product as finished. But what's so funny is sometimes I've put stuff in front of people, like a partner or a peer, and they will say, "Oh, this is so good." And I'll go, "Oh, well, I didn't dot this I or cross this T." And they'll go, "Oh, I didn't even notice that." I think the biggest thing is how do you finish something is just to make sure you're showing your
Yeah.
stuff to people. And that's again ties in with the sacredness. Just get it out there and give it away. Like be giving with your art and with your expressions so that you can start a new thing.
Yeah, nobody knows what you're trying to make. And I
Only
shared
you
at
do
one of the
here.
artist
Ah,
gatherings,
so good.
March or something. I talked about, Coca-Cola was a medicine, YouTube was
Mhm.
a dating service.
Mhm.
When we go to make things, we need to embrace they should probably turn into something beyond our idea. And that's
Yeah.
part of this too. All
It
right.
might not end up being what
Yeah.
you started off.
And that's great.
And that's great.
All right.
Good question.
Joshua asks, how
Okay.
can I be better at photography? I like asking you this.
Okay. Well, Joshua, as a photographer, not a photographer, by the
I would
way.
love to hear this though, as not a photographer though, but
Okay.
you've worked in film and you know
Yes.
photography. You've seen me bore you to death with books and like,
So, how would I become a better photographer? Take this with a grain of salt. But I think that if you are not looking at other photographers,
correct
you
answer.
are robbing yourself. That is not comparison. That is studying other photographers. That is learning your craft. You can become a better photographer. Of course, I'm going to plug classes because Art House is going to be offering photography classes
This fall.
this fall. But I think that I become a better photographer when I look at photography and see something that I like and connect with. And then, secondly, by just taking pictures. And I think that you're going to have to I've heard Josh say this before where he's like, take 100 photos and you'll probably like one.
Yeah.
I think you might have said 10, but I'm going to be really mean.
Yeah.
But that's my advice. I mean, it's why you should be looking at photography everywhere in
Yeah.
books, online, in galleries, like everywhere.
Yes. Setting around doesn't make you a better photographer. Watching YouTube videos about taking photos does not make you a better photographer. It might help, but taking photos, there's a
Yeah.
really famous early photographer in the 1900s. I just said early 1900s.
Oh
We're
God, that
dating
hurt.
ourselves.
Mm.
He said, your first 10,000 photos are crap. That's paraphrasing. But what he's saying is, you just got to take so many photos. I've taken hundreds of thousands of
Mm-hmm.
photos, and I can tell you, and every photographer I know, any semi-pro or pro
Yeah.
photographer, you just learn what you're wanting. You just got to take
Yeah.
photos. So, yeah, I would just say take photos, just keep doing it. Look at other people. And remember, as with any other art discipline, try to copy your heroes. You'll
Mhm.
never pull it off. But what you'll do is you'll find yourself in that. Miles Davis
Oh,
said,
that's good, Josh.
yeah, well, I mean, everyone said this for decades before me, but Miles
Oh,
Davis said, the greatest musicians, you could say artists,
yeah.
are thieves who never get caught. The thing is, if I'm a
Mm.
musician and I try to be John Mayer, it's never going to happen, but something will synthesize in that, and I'll have my version of me come out.
I think that the last thing that I would want to add to that though is to not use your equipment or your what would it be, supplies, whatever, as an
Preach it.
excuse.
A crutch. Yeah.
It's not a crutch. I can't take good photos because all I have is a Kodak camera from
No.
1982.
Our phone,
Nope.
the worst phone right now, has a better camera than any camera made since 1980.
Yeah, I
90,
can't make a
since
movie because I
1990.
don't have a video camera, or a camera. But everyone has phones.
Crutch.
Like it's a crutch. So don't. I have seen some of the most beautiful. I went to a garage sale and a lady gave me this little, what do you call them, point and
Little
snap,
point and shoot film.
35 millimeter camera. She gave it to me for free. I have seen some of the
I gave it to my daughter, and she's taken
some of the most beautiful pictures.
some of my favorite photos. This little
ever.
plastic lens camera.
So don't think that you need more expensive tools in order to create better photos.
Because that's not true.
It's not true.
Let's keep rolling. This is all you. I've learned this from you through synthesis, the photo.
Osmosis that's through water. So this would be whatever.
I've learned this question from you, but I don't think I can explain it. I definitely have gotten better at it.
Okay.
Greta says,
Okay, Greta.
how do I socialize with more confidence? Because this is an interesting question, because artists do need to collaborate. We do.
Yes.
This ties into some of the other stuff. So go.
Thank you, Greta. First of all, this is such a wonderful question. And I am so thrilled that I have an answer that I feel very, very confident in. How do you socialize with more confidence? Is that it?
Yeah.
The best advice I can give you is to take the spotlight off of yourself. The best way that you can socialize and be confident in your socializing is by asking questions. If you ask questions to someone, they are writing the conversational script for you. You don't have to come up with great ideas. You don't have to come up with transitions. All you have to do is know a couple of questions. And from those questions, people are going to be responding and just giving you a script, feedback. Not only that, they're going to walk away from that conversation going, gosh, I really had a great conversation with that person. Man, I really felt seen and heard from that person. And here's the thing, they might not walk away knowing anything about you. You know a lot about them. But the second point I'm going to make is, in order to socialize with confidence and to come across as a really good communicator, more times than not, you're instigating a conversation that is about that other person's favorite subject, which is themselves. And that is not coming from a narcissistic, egotistical point.
Subject,
we are. We're our favorite subject, and we're the subject that we know the most about. So why would I not know and be very passionate about that topic? So I think that if you want to be a confident communicator, you just need to learn how to ask questions. The next thing I would say is definitely eye contact. Please, please, please. The best way to socialize in any situation is by showing someone that you are actually listening. And that will circle all the way back to questions, because you can't know a question to ask. We call them curious questions in our marriage and in our house, but you can't really have follow-up questions if you're not actually listening to what they're saying. So sometimes you only just need one good question. And from that one good question, you listen. You listen to what someone's saying, And then you can pull anything out of what they were saying and just say, tell me more about that. And you just listen. But as far as socializing and being confident in socializing, sometimes some of the best people at a party don't even say a word. You're not wanting to be an extrovert or an introvert or an ambivert or anything. You just need to be yourself. You need to be okay with being who you are. And that is a confident socializer. If you are a person who sits in a circle and listens intently to someone and laughs and engages with the stories they're telling, you are incredibly confident. If you don't speak until you have something to say, that exudes confidence. The other thing that really exudes confidence is honestly eye contact. It is just looking at someone and making sure they know that you are present with them in this moment, listening to what they have to say. That can come through nodding. One of my best party tricks ever is I pull people into my conversation. So if I am feeling like, ooh, this is a weighty conversation, or ooh, this is a lot, and I'm starting to feel drained or something like that, I will say, hey, Josh, come over here. Greta was just telling me about this book that she wrote. Greta, tell him about the thing that you just said to me, like what it's about. And by pulling someone in to a conversation, I am confident enough to know that I can't carry this entire conversation energy-wise. So I'm going to need the help of someone else. So just knowing those like social cues are incredibly helpful. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I would say for me, learning to actively listen.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're someone like me,
Mm-hmm.
Greta and I are alike, I'm sure. We're loners, we're quiet, but what that usually means is you're a learner. I think there's a high connection between timidness, social
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmness. That's not you like being
Overwhelmingness.
overwhelmed in social, it's a
Mm-hmm.
high learning. And so the best thing you can
Yeah.
do is ask these questions and be an attentive listener. And you can turn that awkward situation into a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really key.
And I think I'll just add, I think that that is so wonderful because that will also generate curious questions.
Yeah.
That will generate curious questions. The last thing that I would probably say to you, Greta, is um,
Caffeine,
no,
just lots of caffeine.
no. I think the last thing that I would say is just to speak directly to like the heart of who you are is to be okay with who you are. Like
Mm.
to not to not try and be anybody but yourself. And there is a confidence that comes with that. I'm not trying to be the shy, bashful wallflower. That's just not who I am. But I'm also not trying to be the star of the show and everyone has to gather on me. Like I don't need to be that. One of the things too is Josh is a really high learner and he loves information. He loves research. He just loves knowledge. Not that I don't love those stuff, but I love gathering and including people and stuff. So you're not going to find me poring over books. And I'm confident in the fact that that's just not who I am. But I know someone who is, and I can pull them into a conversation if I need them. And then Josh doesn't try and be who I am. He doesn't pretend to be this extroverted party planner, but he'll show up to the party. And so just knowing who you are is enough. And your voice is unique and your presence is unique. And you'll bring a perspective to the group or to the social situation that nobody else will have. And that is a valuable, valuable thing. You are a valuable, valuable person just the way you are.
Yeah. That's wonderfully
Same.
said. However, life has led you to be how you are. That's great.
That's
We
great.
can always improve. We can always want to change, but be who you are.
Yeah.
All right. Eliana asks, I would love to learn more about the process of filmmaking.
Oh, good job, Eliana.
You've been involved in some films.
I have. So that's actually really interesting because when I made my first film, I had no clue how to do filmmaking. And so the first thing I did was I went and watched documentaries on how to make a film. I'm not joking. I actually signed up for some master classes and I watched like James Cameron's master class. I watched Martin Scorsese's, like, who do I think I am? But
That's why they're there.
and maybe I couldn't be on that level jumping out, but at the end of the day, I did glean some really good information. The other thing about learning filmmaking is I think that there's this imposter syndrome of like, I can't make a film because I don't know how. Here's the little secret I'm going to let you in on, nobody knows how until they actually do it. Like, you can sit in a classroom all day long. I watched those master classes. I watched documentaries. And even then, I still didn't know how to do filmmaking until I actually did it. And I would just bring people alongside of me who knew more than me, or who knew the parts of the industry that I did not know. But at the end of the day, it was my vision. It was my shot list. It was what I saw in my head, and I did it. How do you learn more about filmmaking is you need to get involved in filmmaking, and you need to learn every piece about filmmaking, like be behind the camera, be in front of the camera, be a production assistant, like literally be the person who goes and gets everybody coffee and food, help with costumes, steam the wardrobe, assist in hair and makeup, learn every part about it, because it will just make you a better filmmaker. The reason is because when you're a director behind the camera or you're in front of the camera, you're going to see things on that screen that you may not have enough money in your budget to hire someone for that position. For example, I'll look on the screen and I'll see hairs out of place. I'll see wardrobe malfunctions. I'll see inconsistencies in continuity with set dressing and things like that. But I will have only noticed that stuff because I worked in it. And I think working in any type of aspect in filmmaking, like on all sides of the camera, just brings an awareness that is priceless. So valuable. So watch the documentaries, watch the master classes, but eventually, I mean, go make a movie. Make a movie and learn from it. You don't have to show it to anybody, but dang, you're going to learn so much stuff just by making one. You're going to be like, dang, I wish I would have made a shot list. Wish I would have knew what I was doing before I actually did it. Wish I would have built this differently. Wish I would have filmed at this hour instead of this hour. Agree? No?
Yeah, I mean, I've never made a film, but I've spent thousands of hours in front of a camera.
Yes.
And I think a lot of this applies to all arts and disciplines. What you're saying, I think filmmaking has this administrative, holistic, it's like you're running a team. It's massive. It's a massive endeavor. But I would say, from friends I know and things I've seen, don't let gear and all this stuff stop you. Start really small. Go make a 5-minute film with your iPhone in 4K. Buy a Steadicam adapter on Amazon for $100 and go make films.
That's so good.
Because if you can't make a film with an iPhone, you'll never make one with the nice stuff. Because films aren't about films, they're about stories. And stories come from figuring all that out. So I think that's every discipline has an angle on this. It's a gear thing, getting hung up on the magic of film or whatever. And yeah, if I wanted to go make a film, I've never thought go make a film, but you know, I love Wes Anderson. I would just go study the crap out of it.
Yeah.
I would listen to every podcast he's on. I'd watch every movie. I'd nerd out on why he shoots this way and what you know, I would just figure out those people, and I would try to copy Wes Anderson because I can't. And then I'd try to copy James Cameron's or whoever.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way, you'll find your film.
I think that what you said was so good, though, is you don't miss what he said. He said, start with a 5-minute film. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is the biggest piece of advice. Is a lot of people will be like, I want to make a film. And all of a sudden you're starting with a 2-hour-long movie. What the junk are you doing?
It'll be horrible.
It'll be horrible.
Because you're
wasting so much time and resources and everything.
You can't write a book unless you've written a paragraph. Well,
yeah. Start with 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And do it. Okay, Heather.
We have 3 more from Heather.
Okay.
How do I push the envelope with my art, especially the quirkier and whimsical elements? From Heather.
Well,
it feels so simple, doesn't it?
It does. I want to answer really simply.
Do the simple version.
How do I push the envelope? I guess let me ask your question with a question. What does pushing the envelope look like to you? And why are you pushing the envelope?
And I would ask, what is the envelope?
And I would ask, what's the intention? So really good questions, and you can't be afraid of those questions. If you get offended at those questions, then that's a whole other thing that we need to talk about. Are you pushing yourself? Are you pushing the envelope? Are you pushing what you've never seen before? These are questions that I would want to sit down and ask you and just be like, let's dive into this. So I guess my answer to that would be, let me go from a skill level, heart intentional levels, like our philosophical. Yeah, I think it's going to be more of like your heart, like your motivation behind it. So, from a skill level, how would you push the envelope? Okay, so I have an answer for this when it just comes to practicality. My simple, practical answer is going to be incorporate other mediums.
which we kind of said earlier.
Right. But I would say, like, you need to be using mixed media. If you want things to be whimsical, if you want things to be fantasy driven, then you're going to need to be looking at art with texture, art with shape, art with fluidity, so some type of movement. So if you want to like push the envelope for yourself in creating something that is whimsical, I would definitely incorporate mixed media. Whimsical, I think like fairy, I think like fae and different things like that. So you're going to want to incorporate feathers or teeth of something or, claws of things and wings. And I'm thinking of like fire and
But wouldn't
water,
you say like
earthy elements.
Alice in Wonderland is whimsical? And
100%.
is it that way because it's otherworldly and it's out of pocket?
Sure. Oh, that's really great. Yeah, that is a really great concept. So maybe you combine two things. Let's go Napoleon Dynamite on that. And like, what was it? A liger?
A liger.
A liger, lion, tiger. So maybe you
Yeah.
incorporate two things that are real and you merge them. I mean, a mermaid is a great example of one where you take human or a centaur or, maybe you merge two things that are realistic and make them unrealistic. But if you're talking about art specifically, I think that I would lean more into like bringing mixed media into your art. I have this friend who took a lunch bag and she threw 10 items inside of this lunch bag. She was one of my art teachers and she brought it to the class and she set the lunch bag in front of everybody. Everybody had different things. There was a couple of common elements, but everybody had different elements in their lunch bag. And she said, your first assignment is to use every single element in that bag on your canvas. And everybody was using it. And all of us were like, we've only got 9 things. She's like, oh, there's 10 items. And we were like, we only have 9 things. And she said, silly, the lunch bag is an item. And so we had to like rip our bag up and do things with our bag because she was like, I don't want anything to be left over, not even the bag. And I thought that that was so good to like break us out of our mindset. So if you want to think about like whimsical or fantasy driven stuff, I would just think about like natural elements that need to come into your art. Push yourself maybe in like making an installation and not just like a piece of art. So maybe it's a piece of art that actually becomes a fountain and there's water flowing through it. Or maybe it's a piece of art that at the exhibit gets lit on fire.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like mixed media, but also like mixing realities too.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be my only answer.
I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like when I think of why something feels whimsical, it's because it feels like, well, I've never seen this. This isn't real. But that's what you're making. The artist gets to make things that don't exist.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of that in this.
Yeah.
I love your answer.
I think that too, if you want to make things whimsical, I love whimsical stuff. I love fantasy. I just think it's wonderful. When I think of whimsical things, I always think of movement. So if you're making art and you want it to be more whimsical, I would say come off of the paper, come off of the canvas and make something 3D to where we see the motion of something and it's going to grab you. It's like, why is Tinkerbell so whimsical? Is it because she wears a little mini green dress? No, it's because she leaves fairy dust in her path. Like that is whimsical to me. It's not the fairy itself. It's the remnant of what they leave behind, and it's the fairy dust. So, yeah, maybe there's something about that.
I love that question.
Hey, it was a great one. It made me think.
And again, in the comments, that's the beauty of art. Like, what's your interpretation of that question? Don't forget to be answering these on your own in the comments. These last 2 are going to be one question.
Okay, great.
I'm going to make them one question.
Okay.
It's from Isabel and Jaden.
Okay.
2 different people.
Okay.
I'm going to read both of their questions and you'll get it. It's one question. How do I make professional connections and market myself? And then the other person says, how do I start my photography business? It's about how do you start connections? How do you sell your art? How do you get yourself out there? And then how do you make some money with it? It's all about connections and marketing yourself and what you make.
I mean, what do you have?
A lot of practical stuff.
I think practical. I think it's painfully
practical.
Yeah.
And I think painfully practical can be hard for an artist.
Yeah.
I feel like I live in the middle of the super artsy guy and the very pragmatic,
Hmm.
technical person. So I live in the middle of that. Do you
Yeah.
want to go first? Or you want me to take a
I
shot?
mean, practically, well, I'm not going to have a ton to say on this because I think we're going to say the same things and I'd love to hear you talk more. But let's just be honest. I would say, first of all, do you have something socially on the internet that is only dedicated to you and your craft? And I think that that separation is huge. Like a personal Instagram cannot be your photography Instagram. It
Yeah.
cannot be your headshot, your
You need to
your
curate
slides, your
what you
reels,
do.
whatever. You do.
Yeah.
And you need to curate it a little bit. Unfortunately, that is what people are looking at. As a director, when I go to cast things, sometimes I'll see an actor come in and they'll do an incredible job. And I'll say, man, I just wish I could see more because I only got 2 minutes. And the first thing I do is I go to their socials.
Uh, Yeah. If I went to my favorite
Mhm.
restaurant if I chose restaurants based
Yeah.
on the people who work their personal social medias, I may never eat again.
Hmm.
It's like, I don't want to see that.
That's right. Yeah.
I want to just see the presentation of what I'm getting. And so you can have personality in your business, but professionality needs to come first.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some real practicals from my side
Yeah.
are,
Are you going to say business card or is that too dated? Because
I think it's coming back.
I think they are too. I think they are.
Here's how business works. This is like business 101.
Okay.
There is one thing that is true. Businesses grow and
Hmm.
people sell more stuff for one main reason. Someone tells another person that you should check this out. You should hire this photographer.
Hmm.
You should hire this person. You can do all the ads in the world. You can spend millions of dollars, but until someone says, hey, check this out, we rarely ever listen. If you'll think about right now, things that you've bought in the last year, if you wrote it out, I can guarantee you it's freaky and weird. 80% of it is because someone told you to buy it. It's not because of the Super Bowl ad. The Super Bowl ad just put it on the calendar, put it on the map,
Made you aware.
and then people eventually go, oh, that Mountain Dew does taste good. Buy it, and then you try it. It's all about that type of virality.
Word of mouth.
The
Yeah.
reason we say viral, we're losing the meaning of what this actually means. It went viral. Viral means a person shared a virus to another person. It's a medical term. A person shared that this photographer is a really great photographer, and it's a viral chain of business. So how do you become successful at selling your art? Well, super practical stuff. Under promise, over deliver. Blow people
Hmm.
away with what you do. Be kind, be generous,
Always.
give things away because giving will always get more. Like these are just,
Listen to this, please.
these are just the
Give
practicals.
give things away. Like you can charge for your labor and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, but I decided to throw in, if you're doing photography, I decided to actually print 2 of these prints for you as a gift to you. As an actress, like coming on set, hey, actually, I'm going to act, but when I'm not on stage or whatever, I don't mind like helping with someone else's hair and makeup or something like that. Be kind to everyone because you don't know a future employer or a future director or a future collaborator or whatever you are talking to. Who is the production assistant on a film could be the director on the next one. And so be kind to literally everyone.
Yeah.
And when you are a photographer, I just recently had my daughter's senior photos taken by a girl who, yeah, she was more pricey than everyone else, but her kindness, she goes above and beyond. She under promises and over delivers
amazing.
every single time. And then she ends up sending us gifts. I just thought that this one picture was my favorite. And I think how the light hit her was so great. And she sends us these gifts and we'll just keep using her over and over again because she shows up on time. She shows up prepared and she totally over delivers every time. But that doesn't mean that I go in expecting that because she clearly communicates what she's going to give us for the price that she's doing it. I think that one of the things I would add too would be in the acting, performing world, it's all about who you know. It's the connection. So that's why we would say be kind, meet people, get face-to-face time a lot, and show up. With the photography, how do I make that business and stuff? I think too that you can always go and assist. Go assist on things. I'll never forget, I was directing a movie and there was a girl who wanted to be in the movie. She auditioned and she didn't make it. But she said, let me come and be a production assistant on set. And she literally just handed people water bottles all the time and did Band-Aids and stuff like that. No big deal. But the time came, I didn't have enough people in the background for extras. And girlfriend got to put on a costume and jumped into a movie and was living her best life. So I say all of it to say it's really about who you know. It's about showing up, being kind, but also being present in the area that you want to be on. If you want to be a photographer, go be second camera for someone at a wedding. Go ask to just intern with them or come on a photo shoot and learn from them.
Yeah.
I think anything else?
That term that sticks out in the one question Isabel specifically had in her part, how do I market myself? I think that's a wrong way of thinking about it. I think social media has told us to market ourselves. That is weird because nobody really needs you. They need what you can do. They need your talent. They need how you can make them feel. They need to know that someone in the world is good at something and is nice and actually delivers a product without hassle, and they're just good. That's like what people need. They don't need you. So marketing yourself is this weird thing. It's like, no, market this amazing art that you do, this thing that you can turn into a business and make people feel something, make them feel taken care of. You'll be amazed how some of the most successful businesses are not the best photographer. It's the photographer who delivers great photos, but just makes everyone feel so taken care of, while the best photographer sits there unemployed. And this is across every industry, every art form. It's not about how gifted and amazing you are and you should market yourself. It's not that. It's how do you have empathy as a business? This is asking a business question. How does my business of photography or my business of being a writer, I have to have empathy for the customer over myself. What do they need? How do they feel? And how can I provide a service to them that blows them away? And when you think like that, you'll do really well in a world that's obsessed with social media, influencing, and blah, 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 blah. It's exhausting. But when you get grassroots, person to person in your communities, and you're actually touching people, you're actually helping people, you'll have a business that succeeds.
Yeah, no matter how big your socials get or your marketing can get of yourself, I mean, there's nothing that will replace face-to-face, relational, just being confidence in who you are. I actually worked with this director one time. I was just in a show years ago that the director had written themselves, and they actually loved working with this one person so much that they wrote a show for that person. And I remember that being like I was so taken aback by that. They were so wonderful. They listened, they were attentive, they were so responsible that I knew that I wanted to work with them again. And I realized that the role they were cast in the previous show just did not do them justice. And they wrote an entire show for this person. And I remember learning so much from that experience, going like, whoa, I just need to be what they're needing. Or sometimes like my gift will actually make room for me in future spaces. If I am just a really good, reliable, responsible person. Good?
I think it's great. This has been really fun. You did good.
Yeah, you did good too.
Go to www.arthouse808.com for any information about what we do.
Yeah.
This channel that you're watching, you can subscribe. It's very new. We need subscribers. Like this video, do some commenting. There is a house show that was uploaded. It was our first ever inaugural house show with Nick Laux. It's on there with a Q&A. We're about to post Courtney Hartman's house show with her Q&A. So just subscribe to the channel, share it with friends. That helps us tremendously as a nonprofit. We're starting up off the ground, brand new, and we need support from viewers like you.
And make sure you comment below any of your answers or advice for these questions.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. That's it.
Thanks for watching.
Have a great day or night or whatever you're doing, wherever you are.
Make stuff.
Bye.
Bye.